Okay, so Representative Zoe Lofgren moves to flip 5 GOP seats in a plan where California strikes back at Trump and his party's gerrymandering. I just watched this wild interview with Lofgren herself, and she lays out how, after seeing what Republicans in Texas did to rig their maps, California is responding. I mean, California prefers using an independent redistricting commission the fair way, right? But she's making it clear they won't just stand by and be a political punching bag. She says they can redraw the lines, totally consistent with the Voting Rights Act, to put those 5 Republican seats in play, and that ultimately California voters will be the ones to approve the final map. It's this huge fight fire with fire moment, and it's about finally holding them accountable. Let's watch the full clip, and then I'll give you my thoughts at the end.
Thank you so much for joining me today.
Happy to do it.
Absolutely. So there are lots of questions about what California plans to do to redraw the district lines for House seats in the midterms. And I know the California House Speaker has promised to unveil these maps this coming week, but you've had a key role in these discussions. So what can you tell our viewers about what the plan is in California to give your party more seats in the House?
Well, first, let me say that we, as a state, embraced independent redistricting commissions. And we weren't looking, any of us, to change our seats. But when Texas and Trump moved forward to rig the next election, we decided to take a look at what we might do in response. And the first question was, could you even, consistent with the Voting Rights Act, because that's a value we're not willing to trample on, could you actually pick up 5 Republican seats? And looking at it, we discovered that yes, indeed, you could. Consistent with the Voting Rights Act, put 5 Republican seats in play. We are working with the state legislators, the leadership there, as well as the governor. We've had several discussions with some members that they've designated to work with us. And we're sharing the information we have. Of course, they're the ones that have to legally adopt maps. But I think we're a team effort on this. And the delegation has looked at what's possible. And I say we're unanimous that we want to move forward. We can't allow California to be attacked continually by Trump without a response. I mean, he's stripped millions of Californians from their health care.
Congressman, we've heard that these 5 Republicans in particular are going to be targeted by this plan. That includes Congressman Ken Calvert, Darrell Issa, Kevin Kiley, David Valadao, and Doug LaMalfa. Is that accurate?
Well, I'm just going to let the legislators reveal their proposals next week. But, there's only 9 Republicans in California. So that's a pretty good guess.
Yeah, I mean, could there be a 6th Republican targeted potentially, like Republican Young Kim, who represents parts of Orange County?
Well, I'm just going to let the Speaker of the Assembly and the pro tem go ahead and release the data next week. I don't want to step on their lines. Okay. But I think our goal has been, number one, to be consistent with the Voting Rights Act, also to keep in mind the principles that our commission utilized, trying to keep cities and counties together and the like, and then to match what Texas did, which is the 5 seats.
Congressman, last year, more than 6 million voters in California actually voted for Donald Trump. He won nearly 40% of the vote in your state. But if you have your way, your party has your way, there will just be 4 of the 52 seats in the U.S. House delegation occupied by a Republican. So I'm wondering, are you concerned at all that those 6 million voters could be disenfranchised in your state?
We are going to put whatever map is agreed to on the ballot. California voters will make that decision, not our delegation and not the legislature. But going back to my first comment, we did not initiate this. Trump and the Republicans are not only targeting Texas, they're now talking about Ohio, perhaps Indiana, Florida, to try and rig this election. And we're not just going to sit back and do nothing in
Yeah,
response to that.
and I understand your argument that you are responding to Texas, but look, if both parties go down this road and gerrymander district after district and state after state, as it seems that's where we're headed, it's general election voters and it's independent voters, Congresswoman, who could actually lose out here because the politicians are choosing their voters on which voters should participate in those elections. I'm wondering, are you concerned? Isn't that dangerous for democracy?
We are for independent commissions. In fact, I'm the author of the bill in the House of Representatives to require independent commissions in every state. When Democrats were in the majority, we actually included independent redistricting in our big reform measure, H.R. 1. Not a single Republican voted for that. So, Democrats are for that, but it's the Republicans that have initiated this. If they stop, we'd be happy to stop and go to independent commissions in every state.
And you mentioned that. So essentially, you're going against what you believe, are you not? I mean, pushing this plan in California. You've been a champion on the independent commission.
What I believe is that we should not be a punching bag for Donald Trump. The state of California is losing big because of Trump policies. He has refused to provide the disaster relief that every state gets. He's cut millions of Californians away from their health insurance. He took nutrition programs away from schools. He just reduced funding for science projects in every university in the state of California. So we're going to stand up for Californians. He needs a break, and that break will be Democrats controlling the House of Representatives after next year's election.
And Congresswoman, there are a lot of red states that haven't imposed the same kind of limits on gerrymandering that many blue states have. But now, as we're in this arms race of sorts, do you think it was a mistake for Democrats to enact some of those restrictions and essentially unilaterally disarm?
Well, we were happy with independent commissions. And as I say, we were trying to institute that across the United States. The Republicans stopped us from doing that when we were in the majority. The Senate blocked it. If we gain control again, which I hope we do, I would like to institute independent commissions for House seats in every state. That would be a goal of mine. But right now, it's not an option for Democrats to just be a punching bag for Donald Trump.
So Congressman, do you think that the outcome of this fight that's happening right now in state after state, this redistricting fight to redraw these House lines, do you think that this will decide the next House majority?
I think the voters will decide the next House majority. And I do think, they wouldn't be doing this if they weren't afraid of losing the House.
But this is going to have a huge impact.
Deeply unpopular.
But this is going to have a huge impact on the next majority, is it not? The outcome of this fight.
They are in trouble because what they're doing is deeply unpopular in the United States. From the tariffs, which is crushing small businesses across the country, raising prices for ordinary Americans, taking health care away from Americans so they can give tax breaks to billionaires. Those are not popular policies. That's why they're engaging in this rigging, because they don't want to be held accountable. Our job is to hold them accountable.
All right. Congressman Zoe Lofgren from California, thank you so much and joining me and sharing your perspective over this very, very significant fight. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. So my first reaction, good. Finally. If Texas and the Trump machine are carving the country into safe seats, California isn't going to sit there and smile politely. You could hear it in Lofgren's voice. No hedging, no maybe later. It's game on. So what did we just hear exactly? She walks through the basics. California has an independent commission. Yes, that's the norm. Republicans in places like Texas are pushing engineered maps anyway. The question on the table is whether California can redraw in a way that follows the Voting Rights Act and puts 5 GOP seats in play. She says the answer is yes, and that the final plan would go to voters on the ballot. Also, she reminds everyone, Democrats tried to make independent commissions a national standard HR when Republicans blocked it. That part matters because it sets the terrain. One side keeps using power aggressively. The other side brought flowers to a cage match and got booed. I'm hearing the predictable pushback already, but commissions, and here's where I land. The commission is still the ethical North Star. California built it. California can be proud of it. And yet, meanwhile, Republicans are racing around the country, rigging lines, while courts tie themselves in knots and SCOTUS shrugs at raw partisanship. You don't protect democracy by letting one team redraw all the swing ladders while you meditate about process. You use every lawful tool available, VRA compliance, keeping cities together where you can, and crucially, asking voters to sign off. If the public hates the plan, they'll vote it down. If they're sick of getting hammered by maps from Austin to Tallahassee, they'll approve the counterpunch. Receipts. Because, yeah, I like receipts. Democrats did push national reforms that would have forced every state to use independent commissions and ban mid-cycle games. The GOP in Congress killed that. Texas Republicans did pass maps designed to lock an advantage after a decade of demographic change. Florida's governor literally leaned on a more extreme map and dared the courts to stop him. Ohio spent years in a redistricting ping pong that exhausted everyone. None of that is imaginary. Meanwhile, California is saying, our move will follow the Voting Rights Act and we'll hand it to the electorate. That's not a backroom carve-up. That's a statewide decision with civil rights guardrails baked in. And I can hear the interviews loaded stat millions voted for Trump in California, so why fewer GOP seats? Two thoughts. First, California's population isn't evenly spread. Geography and community boundaries create natural skews even before a single line is drawn. Second, Republicans in red states don't lose sleep when millions of Democrats get squeezed into as few districts as possible. If fairness is the goal, then fairness needs national rules. Until Congress sets those rules, states with the capacity to resist should calmly, legally, visibly resist. There's a moral piece here too. Lofgren keeps bringing up the VRA. That's the line that matters for me. We're not talking about slicing up Black or Latino communities to hoard power. We're talking about drawing opportunities for competitive seats while protecting the ability of minority voters to elect candidates of choice. That's the difference between a smash and grab and an actual pro-democracy defense. If a map violates that principle, bin it. If a map strengthens representation and stops a nationwide gerrymander blitz from handing the House to extremists, then sorry, I'm on board. And the tariffs, healthcare, disaster aid stuff she mentions, yeah, that context matters. Republican policy choices have raised costs, kicked at coverage, and played politics with aid. California took those hits and kept moving. Asking Californians to approve a map that evens the playing field feels honestly like basic self-respect. You don't bring a foam bat to a steel cage. You protect your voters, your climate agenda, your labor standards, your rights. If that means 5 Republicans suddenly have to actually earn their seats in fairer VRA-compliant districts, great lace up and campaign. Look, I'm a process nerd. I really am. But I'm done watching Democrats get lectured about purity while the other side codes the cheat menu into state law. Voters get the final say. The Voting Rights Act sets the ceiling and the floor. And if California's move pressures Congress to pass national standards so everyone plays by the same rules next time, even better. Final thought, and I mean, this fire with fire only works when you keep your values in the frame. Lofgren's framing does that. Lawful, voter ratified, civil rights compliant, and unapologetic. That balance is the template. Compete hard. Follow the VRA. Win on ideas once the map isn't tilted like a funhouse floor. Simple as, let me know your thoughts in the comments. While you're down there, hit the like button and subscribe. I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.